So here we are again, checking on our saddle fit and our movement with our saddle fitter and Emmett therapist. We've been having some trouble under saddle getting our forward movement, and I think working in the small round yard's part of the problem there. So we've graduated to the full size arena here. I'm expecting him to be a little bit anxious because he's not worked in this arena before, but I do have a feeling that he's going to free up in his movement regardless of any pain he might be feeling in his muscles there. We have established that his shoulders are a bit tight and he's got some tightness in his hips, so we're just going to go ahead and see how he actually moves under saddle, being able to open up and move in straight lines. As always, check my lateral flexion and hindquarter yields before I ask for a walk-off. And then we get a nice free and easy walk without any protest. Mostly straight lines following the fence there. He's a little bit distracted outwards, but that's to be expected, being, a fairly new area for him. So just keep his mind with me, keep him under control there a little bit with a couple of hindquarter yields. It's important when we move to a bigger open area like this early in our training that we make sure the mind stays on the job as much as possible. You can't help but or they can't help but being distracted by all the new sights and sounds and the wind and all these other things, but it's important that you keep bringing them back to you. I didn't ask for a trot there, but I'm going to let that go just because we haven't had much forward movement. We've had a lot of problems with forward movement up to now, so I'm just going to let these go here. I'm not really asking for too much because I don't want to push him too much while he's feeling anxious. But at the same time, we do need to get this movement for the Emmett therapist to be able to see where he's tight in his straight line movement, and is he tracking evenly? Is he shouldering in or hipping in? We also need to see how the saddle fits while riding as well. He was just sort of getting himself a little bit anxious there, so I'll give a little bit of a hindquarter yield there and just shut that down before he gets too far out of control. So we're just checking on where the saddle's fitting, where it's tight, where there's some room, is it sitting evenly, and it's funny to see actually, or it's good to see that when we first took Beau on, he was in a little bit of he wasn't starving, but he wasn't overly well fed, not through any fault of the owners previous. He was living in a herd in a paddock, and being the low horse in the herd, he was getting beaten off the feed a little bit, so he was lacking a little. And in the couple of months since we've had him here, he's filled out so much that this saddle has gone from being slightly wide for him to actually being a bit tight on his shoulders there. So that's one of the issues we've got to work through. We're probably looking at a new saddle now to accommodate for his growth. As you can see, his straight line movement's quite good. He is a little bit tight on his offside hip there, but generally he's moving quite freely, being out in the open arena now, being able to move straight lines. We're certainly getting much better movement than we have done. he's still a little bit unsure about moving forward under saddle. He's just not sure what I'm asking for, but he'll figure that out. He'll figure that out as we go along. You know, you've got to expect with these young green horses that they're just going to try a few things out. You know, they're not going to quite understand what it is that we're after. As you can see here, he's a little bit flighty. He's a little bit anxious. He's not sure what I'm wanting, and he's not overly comfortable. Since we had that little bit of a tight circle situation going there, which he sort of put himself into more than anything. I think that's aggravated whatever it is that's causing him a bit of soreness, and now he's struggling to move forwards again. So we're just I just got a little bit of forward there from him, and then we'll shut that down there, and we'll call that a day, and we're off to have his soreness treated with Emmett therapy. So if you're wondering about Emmett therapy, I genuinely encourage you to have it to check into it. See if you've got a local Emmett therapist in your area. You can look it up on Facebook. There's a bunch of Emmett groups around Australia on Facebook, and you can find a local therapist in your area. It's just a light touch therapy that is centered around muscle release. So highly recommend, rather than your deep tissue massage, where a lot of horses can brace up and the muscles don't loosen as well as they could because the horse is bracing against pain, so the muscles stay tight, or chiro, where you might have tight muscles that are causing the spinal issues, so the chiro readjusts the spine but the tight muscles are still an issue. Emmett therapy is a light touch therapy which doesn't cause discomfort in the treatment itself, but results in releasing loose muscles that are causing pain. So highly recommend, if you've not looked into that before, that you look into it as an alternative to the more traditional methods of body treatment for your horses.